All right, so let's get started. So I did a little bit of research as to what's hot this year and what's not and all those kind of things. Now, I don't tend to follow the trends per se, but I do like to know what's kind of going on out in the world. And apparently pearls are supposed to be really big this year, but sort of like organic, kind of really nice looking, but a little bit on the chunkier side of pearls. So I had these really lovely nugget pearls that are in a sort of a peachy pink kind of color. And I thought, well, you know what, let's go on the pearl trend, and I'm going to mix it up with a little bit of a different color combo, and I'm going to use some antique copper, which is something that I don't use very often. And I'm going to show you how to pearl knot. So this is going to be a basic bracelet. This won't be a kit, but I will link in the description box below. I will link all of the parts that I've used today. So this is going to be more about a technique in learning how to knot pearls. Now, everybody has a different way of doing it. I taught myself. I never had anybody teach me. So there may be an expert out there that watches this and kind of goes, oh my gosh, what's she doing? But this is the way that I taught myself how to knot pearls. So today what we're going to be using is some natural silk. So what I love about this is it comes with a needle built right in it. Now I have two different sizes, and that's for a very good reason. We never know how large these drill holes are, and I'm going to try and put that up. It's going to probably not focus. I can see that it's not focusing very well. But the drill holes in these are very small. So I'm going to have two different sizes and see which works best. And like I said, I have these little natural sort of peachy pink nugget pearls. And we do have quite a few strands available of these. And if you're ever buying any of our pearls or wood or semi-precious or Chinese crystal, they're always 50% off the price that you see on our website. And when you check out, they're just going to automatically reduce by 50%. So, and I also have some small jump rings. I have a couple bead tips, and I'm going to be using a really simple clasp today. I just have a magnetic small clasp. And when I use a magnet, I always want to put a little bit of safety chain on there. And for our tools, I'm going to be using our little stainless steel fine tip tweezers. And we do sell these, and they're pretty inexpensive. I think they're $3.99. And they're kind of a must-have, I think, with creating jewelry, because you never know where you might need that. They're great for unpicking knots or trying to position things where you want them. And look at that, I actually do have scissors. It's been a long-standing sort of running joke that I don't have scissors, but I wanted to have some scissors to cut the silk today. So I dug out my really good Fiskars that I've had for, I don't know, probably 40 years. I got these when I first started sewing way back in the day. But you know what? They're still pretty sharp, so we'll give those a try. We're also going to use a little bit of GS Hypo cement. And for our other tools, I think we're probably just going to need our chain nose pliers and our bent chain nose pliers to attach the metal pieces. So what the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of move some of the stuff that we're not going to need right now so that we can focus on what I am going to be showing you here. So what we have to determine first is the size of silk that we're going to be using. And we have this silk, we just inventoried it the other day, and oh my gosh, we have so many colors and so many sizes. Not every color has the same sizes. And on this one, I wanted to use sort of a brown, and this is actually beige. I think they call this one, yeah, this is beige. And so I only had a 3 and a 6. I probably would have tried a 4, but this is all I had. So what I do is I try the largest one first, because I want to see if, like I like having my knots a little bit bulkier. So I will tell you that this is silk. So if you're thinking of using your thread zapper on this, it won't work, because you can only use those on sort of polyester kind of things. So you'll see that it comes with a little needle on there, and that's what makes this so awesome, because you've got a little needle. And of course, when it comes out, it's going to be all bent, but it doesn't really matter if it's bent or not. So what I do is I take my pearl and see if I can get it on. And that fits on there perfect. So today we're going to get rid of the 3 and we're going to use the 6. So you might even be able to get a little bit higher. Maybe you could use an 8. But for me, I tend to use a 6 for a lot of things. So what we're going to do is take this off of the little card. And you get about, I think it's 2 meters of, yes, it's 2 meters of a cording on here. And because we're going to start on the end of it, you can actually keep this if you don't use all of it and use it for another project. Now you'll see when it comes off the card like that, it's all bent up, and we don't want it like that because your piece will actually end up with those little bumps in there. So now I should have done one off camera yesterday or something. I didn't because, you know, I'm just kind of doing this last minute. But I'm going to show you what I do to prepare my silk. And again, this is just what I taught myself because I looked up years and years and years ago. I looked up how to best deal with all the silk and what do you do with it. And some people said iron it, and some people said, you know, get it wet and hang it and all those sort of things. And what I do now, I have a little bit of water off camera here because I don't want to have a ton of water in the way. But I just put some water on my fingers. I run it over the end, and I just keep sort of running it over like that. And you can see already how that straightened it out. And what that is doing is kind of stretching that out. Now, unfortunately, it will be a little bit wet for this project, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Now, you don't want to do this fast. Like, you don't want to be like, and like kind of going real fast because I've actually burnt my fingers. You can get a bit of a silk burn on your fingers. So I'm just dabbing my fingers into the water and I'm just pulling down. Now, you can do the whole 2 meters if you want. I'm getting water around here, but we're not going to need that much today. I don't know, we might need 1/2 meter or something like that. But that's how I prepare my silk. So I just run my fingers down and I make sure there's no kinks in it because, like I said, those kinks will show in your piece, in that your piece will end up a little wobbly instead of having a really nice drape to it. And the drape is really important. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a knot in the end. So what I do is I just kind of create my first knot and I try to get it as close to the end as possible. And I'm just going to kind of pull like that. And now that's not a big enough knot because we have to put it inside this little clamshell, or this one, we call these bead tips because they're actually a sideways one. So now I'm going to create another one. And I don't often use my tweezers for the first one because I can kind of guide it with my fingers here. So I'm just going to get that a pretty decent size. So I'm going to go for 3. So just going to get that nice and on top of each other is basically what you're trying to do. Then I'm going to come in and bravely cut, and you can leave a little tiny tail like that. And I will take a bit of GS Hypo. Now, I'm not going to do this on camera because, you know, the GS Hypo gets everywhere, but you're going to just pretend my tweezers are GS Hypo, and you're just going to put a little dab on your knot, kind of let it dry for a little bit. And then you're going to take your bead tip, and you want to have the 2 holes facing outwards, so that we can now attach things on the end there. Now what I like to do is I like to create another knot right on the outside of that. So now is where we're going to start using our tweezers. So the way that I create my knots is I put my cording in front of me, I take the long piece from behind, wrap it around, and then I just pull it through. And then I'm going to take my tweezers, I'm going to go through that hole. So you can see I'm still holding on to it, because if I didn't hold on to it, it would fall apart. So I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to place the tweezers right where I want that knot. And I want that knot right there. Now when I let go, I want to make sure that it's falling to the right and not to the left. If you're left-handed, just switch this around, because if it fell to the left, you would lose your knot. And then I pull up, and you can see that that knot will go right where I want it to go. I then pull it out, I run my tweezers down and tighten it up, and there we have our first knot on there. I'm going to find the hole, put my silk through there. Now this is a super easy beginner project. When I had my brick and mortar store open, we used to do a lot of repairs, and this was one of the repairs that we used to get asked to do all the time, was pearl knotting. And you can see how simple this is. Once you learn this basic technique, it's so simple. So again, we're going to take our tweezers, put it through that hole, put them right where you want that knot, let that fall, and then pull it straight up so that it doesn't pop off the end. And I'm pulling tight because I want that knot to go down nice and low. Then I kind of hold on to the knot so it doesn't fall apart. And then I take my tweezers and run down, and then that just kind of tightens it up. So now you can see we've got a knot on either side. So now if you wanted to do a pattern, if you wanted to do a pearl and then a You know, like I've got some other beads here that I could use. You could do a pattern, you could do whatever, but I thought, let's just do a basic pearl bracelet. It will just be super classic and simple. This is one of those like heirloom pieces of jewelry that you could pass down through the years, because pearls never lose their appeal, I don't think. They just always kind of hold their value, and they're getting very expensive. Trying to get an affordable pearl is kind of something that never happens any longer. So you can see, even with me sort of going slow and chatting to show you what to do, this isn't going to take very long. So I'll show you a couple more, and then I'm going to finish it off camera so that you can get a good idea of how to then finish off the ends. So again, we go around the fingers, and I cross over. I don't know why, but when I do that, it never quite works. So I cross over, I reach through that hole, grab that, pull it through, and then go through and grab my silk, and then pull up, and then pull down on it. And there we've got another knot. So now if we had used the number 3 silk, it would still work the same. It just may make a really small knot, which is fine. You just want to make sure that the bead doesn't go over top of that knot. So when you're buying pearls, or any, like you can do this with regular beads too. Like I could do it with this smoky quartz, but I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but that's got quite a bit of a larger hole. So if I was stringing these on and making a whole bracelet with this, I would probably use a number 10. So you just want to make sure that your knots aren't going to, or your beads can't go over your knots. So when you're buying beads, or if you've got a stash of beads and you think, oh, I want to do this technique, I really love it. I can't tell you which one you're going to need. You may need to have a few different sizes of silk in your arsenal, so that you can do exactly what I did today, in that I didn't know which size I was going to use. I had to sort of figure it out. And I at first thought that the 3 would be my go-to, because these looked fairly small to me. But then like I did, I pulled the 6 out, and it was actually quite perfect. So go around, reach through. This also makes a beautiful necklace. So if you've got, a bride and you want to give her a special gift, or just a bridal bracelet, like the possibilities are endless. So you can see we're starting to create our beautiful piece here. So I'm just going to carry on and finish a bit of a bracelet here, and then I will come back and I will show you how to put it all together. All right, so I've got my bracelet all completed here, and I'm just going to put on my last pearl, and that literally took me about another 10-12 minutes to do that. Now, when we used to do these in the store for repairs, we used to charge $2 per knot. So this can be an expensive technique if you have somebody do it. So this is a really good technique to learn how. Just don't tell your friends, because then they're going to want you to repair their jewelry. All right. So now you want to make sure that when you are making your knots, that you're pulling down so that you don't end up with any gaps. You want to have a nice you don't want it so tight that you don't have any flexibility, but you don't want to have any loose bits hanging in between. So be mindful, take your time to pull your knots down before you tighten them up. All right, so that's my last knot on there. So now I want to put my bead tip on here, just like I did on the other end. So remember, here we made a knot, then we put a bead tip on, and then we created another knot. So what I'm going to do here is start my extra knots, and I'm going to sort of place my tool right about there, because that's about where I want my knots to be, because this bead tip is going to sit right like that. So, and I'm going to make, 3 or 4 knots. So I'm going to get the first one started, and you just don't want to push it down so tight on that last knot there. So we're going to kind of manipulate that into place, and then we're going to create another one. And I would say that this one is definitely a little bit more challenging than the very first set of knots. So I'm just going to go slightly under that, because I feel like that's a bit too much of a gap. So, you know, that's the one nice thing about creating your own jewelry is you can put things where you want them to be. Okay, I think that's going to be a little bit better. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be super tight. I just don't want it to move around. So I'm just going to kind of move that with my thumbnail. And you can see between the last knot and this knot, we've got a little gap, which is exactly what we want so that that bead tip fits in there nice. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to place my tweezers right on top of that knot that I've created now. And then this one will drop right on top of it. So it's not going to look very pretty because we're creating sort of a mass of knots. But with these bead tips, they have a little round hole in the end. So we don't want that knot to come through. So I'm going to make sure that's nice and tight. And then I'm going to trim that off. And again, I would put a little dab of glue on there. Now you can see that I only straightened it to about right here. So that was just about what I thought. And I'm going to kind of pull it through my fingers so you can see how much we have left. So I've got a lot. I've probably got 1.5 meters left. So you can get quite a few projects out of this. And this one was $2.99. So they're really reasonable. All right, so now I'm going to pop my knot inside my bead tip. And I'm going to close that up. And I just close it with my fingers. Now, if you've got any of the silk hanging out, you can put that back in. Just make sure you put a little bit of glue on there. All right, so now I'm just going to use a really simple clasp. I just really wanted the focus to be on the beads and not on all the other accoutrements. So we're keeping it really simple. Now, when I use a magnet, I always make sure to put a bit of safety chain on, because magnets are notorious for catching on to things like, you know, if you're on the bus or the subway or, you know, going into a department store and there's a metal door, they're so magnetic that they will attach. So you do have to always put a safety chain, which will stop it from coming right off your wrist. So I'm going to take one of our small 18 gauge jump rings and I'm going to open that up, get a good hand grip on it, and I'm going to run it through the end of our chain. And I have about 2 inches or so of chain, and you can use any sort of small chain. This is like a peanut chain, so it's got a little bit of texture to it, and I quite like that. And then I'm going to run that through the magnet. So this can be a whole lot of things trying to work at one time, but you know, it's not too hard to get that through. And then now the hardest part is going to be getting that through the hole of the bead tip. You want to make sure that you've got those little ends lined up. So kind of move that out of the way, turn your pliers over and do that up. And to make sure that it's nice and tight, I just kind of jiggle back and forth until I can't really see a seam. And then now you can see that you've got the chain you just kind of want it hanging in the middle there. It's not something that I sort of focus on. I just want to make sure that it's there. And again, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to, let's try it this way. See if I can get that on there first, because this is the harder one. Oh, that was pretty easy. And you want to do it in the same sequence. So I'm going to put on the chain and then put on my magnet. And it always gets stuck. So you kind of have to just get in there and boss it around. There we go. Okay, and now when you do it up, the chain will just kind of hang there. But if it comes off of you, it's not going to fall off. So now the best way to put on jewelry that has a magnet on it is don't pull on it. You want to slide it. So now when I put that on, it's also a lot easier to do up because I just have to kind of like, you know, maneuver them and it goes together like that. So see how pretty that is? Just a super simple, I'm going to get this stuff out of the way. Just a super simple bracelet, but it's sort of timeless and it's beautiful, and it was pretty affordable to make this. I mean, you can make this for, you know, $10, and what a lovely gift to give somebody. Mind all my cuts. I don't know what I've been doing to myself lately. Anyway, so I hope you like this technique. I really love it. It's literally one of my favorite things is knotting, and I've always enjoyed it. I find it one of those sort of rhythmic, cathartic things, and I think you will love it if you've never tried it. So if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment and tell me, have you ever tried this technique before? And if you haven't, are you going to give it a shot? Be brave, you can do it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope that you do so. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.